Welcome to the Marketing Advent Calendar, Day 3. I'm your hostess, Mandy Thompson with Digital Reach Online Solutions. And the Marketing Advent Calendar is done in conjunction with the Coffee Advent Calendar, which we've already talked about in episodes 1 and 2. Coffee Advent Calendar comes from the fantastically talented, inspired people at Onyx Coffee Roasters or Coffee Labs. So I definitely recommend you check them out before we jump into our very exciting marketing topic today, which is SEO, which certainly needs to be demystified, and that is what we are going to do today while we are brewing this coffee. So today's coffee is from El Salvador, and it's their Santa Rosa honey. Honey process is one of the coffee processes used. It's used very commonly in Central America, and so when the coffee beans are drying, there's wash process, so you wash everything away from the bean. Then there's honey process where the outside part of the fruit is removed, because coffee, for those of you who don't know, comes in a cherry, and the coffee bean is actually the seed in the middle of that cherry. But so what happens is there's a little bit of mucilage left on the coffee bean, and then that does a sort of fermentation process, imparts more of the sweetness from the coffee cherry into the coffee bean and creates a different flavor profile. So that's what we're going to be brewing today, and we're going to brew it on the Delta, which is an injection coffee brewing method, kind of like espresso. Plunge-wise, it looks a little bit like the AeroPress, but the coffee is not actually immersed in the water. It's in here underneath the rubber plate, so it actually creates like an injection style. But enough about coffee, let's talk a little bit about SEO. So what is SEO? SEO is search engine optimization. What is a search engine? A search engine would be like Google, Bing, Yahoo, MSN. It's where we search on the internet to find the information that we're looking for. And so typically when we think about SEO, or when most people think about SEO, they think about keywords. But the reality is SEO is not all about keywords. And in fact, it is, keywords help to organize and categorize the information, but there is so much more to SEO than keywords. But let's start with what everybody recognizes that SEO is about, which is keywords, and talk about how that works. Oftentimes people think, let's say you have a dentist office and you think, okay, like I just need to target the keyword dentist, or let's say that you have a hair salon. Let's say you're like, okay, I'm just going to target hairstylist. But people don't usually search using keywords. They search using search queries or phrases. And so we have to think about, when we're creating an SEO strategy from a keyword standpoint, we have to think about what those keywords are extrapolated out into as search queries. And then from there, we need to think about, do I want to focus on like some root words where I can get a lot of potential matches? Or do I want to find a particular phrase that may not have as much volume as, let's say, I'm just going to say dog shampoo. Let's say we're like, okay, dog shampoo. I want to purchase, I sell dog shampoo, so I'm going to target the keyword dog shampoo. Well, you might want to target dog shampoo, or you might want to target natural paraben-free dog shampoo if that's what your product is. Now, when you do your keyword research to see how many of that keyword, how often that keyword is searched, you are going to find that the paraben-free natural dog shampoo has less searches, but it's more specific. And if you aim to target that keyword, then you can use what's called a long tail keyword, where instead of using the root words, you expand that out into the phrase. So that's enough about the actual keyword part of it, because SEO is much less about keywords today than it has ever been. And I remember the days early on when you could just do your, pick your keywords, stuff your pages with keywords over and over and over again, and you could rank at the top of Google. And thankfully, we're not in those days anymore, because when we think about what is Google's goal as a business, well, Google's goal as a business is they sell search. They sell search spaces to their advertisers. And the reason that you probably use Google, the reason I use Google, is because Google does a really great job at getting me results at the top of the page that match what I need and what I'm looking for, and require minimal amount of time and effort from me to find the information that I want. That's why I like using Google. So Google needs to make sure that Google gives you the information that you want. Otherwise, you're not going to use Google anymore. So keywords are great. It's a great indicator, right? It helps. You do need to focus on them. Like you should definitely make sure that your pages have the keywords that people are looking for and keywords that relate. So this gets into where we start to see that SEO is about a lot more than keywords. So Google actually knows whether you like the website you went to or not. Now, when I say that, you might be a little bit freaked out and like big brothery, like surprise, surprise. We all already know that. But it isn't actually about like Google watching you in that kind of way. There are indicators. Some of them come from Google Analytics, some of them come from Google itself, and then others we can create through tagging strategies to signal to Google when things happen. So let me give you an example. Let's say you rank high for a keyword, and when somebody clicks on your website, they don't get what they wanted and they leave right away. Google knows that. They know that there was a 100% bounce rate, meaning they didn't go to any other pages. They know they only spent 6 seconds on your site and left. And you know what Google's going to decide from that? Yeah, Mandy's website may have some really good keywords and they may have done that right, but people don't like it. When they search for those keywords and they get to Mandy's site, they leave. Mandy probably isn't giving them what they wanted in their search. I'm not going to show Mandy's website at the top of the page anymore because, wait, I'm Google. What's Google in the business of? Selling search. Well, this isn't a very good experience for Google's client, who is all of us who use Google to search. Let me find a website that would be better. So Google is actually in their SEO. They're considering how you're behaving on the website. So when you're building a website, use a tool like Google Tag Manager. Tell Google when somebody watched a video on your website, when they had a micro conversion because they clicked a key button that is an important KPI that you're tracking on the path to conversion. Then Google's going to know, hey, people are converting on this website for this term, they're spending time, they're doing things, so like, I should probably send people to this website a little bit more, and then you get better rankings. In addition to this, we have local versus global searches. So not all searches are created equally. If Google determines that what you are offering should be found locally, you're going to have an easier time ranking locally than you are globally. Globally doesn't necessarily mean like globally like the whole world, but what globally does mean is the entire country or anywhere that somebody can get a search result for that page. And so Google is going to say, hey, what is the absolute best result here for this? And let me serve that, okay? So that's another component to SEO. Now, before we finish this up, I want to get to the last component, which is oftentimes the most frustrating one. And yes, I'm pressing far too hard on this and making a complete mess, but hopefully the coffee part of it will forgive me and it will still be delicious. I think so. So the last part is your behavior and your preferences. So then that gets into, and of course, other things in SEO, right? So we have the domain authority. So how many other websites link to your website? So we think of this, oftentimes it's described as a link neighborhood, right? And so if the sites that are referring to your site are good, and then that will tell Google and their robots that your site is also probably good. So link backs and things like that will also help for SEO. But again, those things can be fabricated. And we have a dog growling in the back. There could be barking that happens here soon. But Google also considers your personal information as well. So when it comes to SEO, keywords are still kind of king, but there's a lot more to it. So I would definitely recommend digging into it. And this will be over in a second. Maybe not. I mean, it depends. But